So welcome everyone to our weekly workforce workshop series where we talk about workforce planning and TeamOhana. I'm Akshara and Chief of Staff here at TeamOhana. And today I'm very excited to chat through some recent enhancements that we've made to our product. Firstly, wanted to talk about some quick housekeeping. Feel free to drop questions in the chat or in the Q&A as we go, and we'll try to have a few minutes for Q&A at the end of each of the enhancements that I talk about. We are also recording this webinar, so we will be sharing it with all of you at the end of it, so you can refer to it later as well. So we at TeamOhana are committed to improving the product experience and building a great workforce management decision layer. TeamOhana is where you can collaborate with different teams, use structured workflows, and run the process with control. So our enhancements help you do exactly that better. So today we'll cover updates that touch upon different parts of the platform across the homepage experience, access controls, forecasting, and workforce structure. So we'll talk about these three on the agenda today, and if time permits, maybe we can talk about a couple more that we also launched over the last month. All of these enhancements were launched within the last 4 weeks or so, and you might have already seen this in the platform as you were navigating that. So throughout this, I will be flipping between slides and the live platform, so bear with me as we move around between the two. All right, so now first, let's start talking about the new homepage. So you might have seen this already as you're logging in, but now our home section has 4 different pages within it. We have a new page that we launched for requests and a new page that we launched for approvals. So the requests page is where you can manage all drafts and submitted requests, and approvals is where you can manage all headcount which are in approval. And so that brings us to a total of 4 different pages here. So this is a great time for us to review how to best leverage all of these different home pages. So I want to start by talking about the dashboard first. So I'm going to pull up the dashboard in TeamOhana, and while I do that, we'll just put up a quick poll for all of you to answer. All right. So what you're seeing on the screen is the homepage dashboard. And if this is enabled, then the user's default view is this homepage dashboard as their homepage when they log in. So what makes this dashboard powerful is that it is fully permission driven, which means that every user is seeing a version of this page that is relevant to their role, right? So this means that if a hiring manager is logging in, then they are seeing just their summary of their headcount plans, while an HRBP might see a summary of the departments that they have access to in the system. TeamOhana, at TeamOhana, we recommend that this dashboard is accessed by everyone in the organization or all users in TeamOhana. And this is because we think it's a great tool or a great page for everyone to refer to when they log into the platform. At its core, the dashboard itself is so I just got the results back from the poll. So it looks like about 50% of the crowd here has made it live for all users, but for some of you, maybe it's not yet. So again, TeamOhana, we would recommend that this is given access to a wide variety of users, and I'll just take you through, kind of the reasons why, right? So at its core, the dashboard gives you an exec summary of everything that's going on in headcount plans that is relevant to your role in the organization, right? It gives you this high-level view of your headcount, where it is currently, where it's going, cost, if you have access to that, and how that forecast is developing. So where you started and where you're going to end up at the end of the year, and how that distributes by division and by department. But again, it is going to be customized to a hiring manager or to a department leader or whoever is logging into this. So essentially, it gives you that exact summary without having to click through multiple different pages in the platform, without having to do any kind of analysis. You get that high-level summary right up front. If you have recipes enabled, then this section also becomes important here, where you can see a summarized list of all the key recipes that you found valuable and that you added to your homepage or you added to your list of recipes. So you can get these insights which refresh on a daily basis, and which give you a high level view of what's going on, what needs, what is interesting, what might be interesting to you to see. And you can click on any one of these to view that recipe in greater detail in the recipes detail page as well. We did do a deep dive series on a deep dive session on recipes last week. And so if you missed that webinar, we will be sending a recording link after this webinar is over. We will be sending you a link to this as well as the previous weeks. And it is also there on our website feel free to, we'll look through that to kind of understand how you can leverage recipes. The other important part of this dashboard is this needs attention section. So this gives you a summary, and again, based on the user role, it gives you a summary view or a comprehensive view of all the tasks that need your attention. And if you hover over that, you can see exactly what that task is, and you can click into it to dive right into actioning on your pending items as well. Great. So that's what the homepage dashboard is all about. And again, this is permission-based. Admins control who has access to it. And again, we recommend that this is opened up for as many users as possible. Now let's dive into the requests page, which is the brand new page that we created and released about a week ago. So this is the page where you can view and manage all of your headcount requests. It retains all the functionalities of the old requests page, but just has a much better user experience. We redesigned that so that it is cleaner and easier to navigate. And there are a few new capabilities layered in, right? So right here, what you can see is an inventory of all the requests that you have access to across headcount, terminations, internal transfers, and scenarios. So there are these multiple tabs. And you can see requests across all the different stages. So you can see requests which are in draft stage, in approval, change requests, denied, as well as archived. If the request is approved, it will not show up in the requests page. It will show up in the hiring tracker, as you know well. So what can you see on this page, right? So you can see the list of all the requests that you have access to based on your department access. So if the user has access, for example, to all the requests, headcounts of a particular department, then they are seeing all here. So how can you toggle between that is through this button here, where you can toggle between either all the requests that you have access to, or you can look specifically for the ones that you created or the ones that you were added as a collaborator. And so clicking on one of these gives you a filtered list. We also have a few filters on the top. You can search and manage columns, and you can also export this page for a better functionality. And you can also use this create button here, which exists as part of our previous other home pages that exist in this page too, where you can create a headcount. So from this page, you can action on things by clicking on the headcount. You can view who the approvers are, where it is in the approval flow. If you have the ability to approve as an admin, you can select and approve as admin as well. But if you do not have this permission, you cannot approve anything on this page. You can simply view and look at the request states. Next, I want to quickly talk about the approvals page. The approvals page, again, this is similar to requests where it is a visual upgrade on the previous approvals page. And this page, users will automatically get access to this either if they are an approver on any approval chain or if they have the approve as admin permission. So this page is essentially the action queue, and it only shows the requests that are currently in approval. So here again, you can toggle between those that are pending your approval. And if you have the ability, you can see what you can approve as admin on this page. So if I were to click on the approve as admin, I'm seeing a much bigger list across new hires, backfills, change request, all types of headcount requests. And again, we have some bulk actions in here. So you can either click quickly approve here, or you can select multiple and you can approve all. If you are approving as admin, you are approving on behalf of all approvers. And so you're fully approving this headcount. Or you can approve just bulk approving just your own approvals as well on this page. And again, all of these other pages are fairly straightforward. You can navigate between terminations, internal transfers to see all of those which are pending approval. Okay, any questions so far on any of the home pages that we just talked about? If there are any, you can feel free to drop them in the chat. And while I wait for that, I'm gonna quickly mention that the inbox page, as it stands today, is the exact same as it was always. There are some enhancements that we are planning to this, so please stay tuned for that. But for now, this operates exactly the same. And if you click on this view all, then you are redirected into the request and approval page as appropriate. Awesome. So we are pretty excited about these home pages, and we want to have all users to have a great experience here as they log in. So we're hoping that with these new enhancements, that makes that possible. One quick note is the requests page. This is controlled by a specific access permission. So admins can control if users are seeing this page or not. The only reason to have someone not see this page is if you are giving someone very limited access to TeamOhana. And speaking of very limited access, I want to talk about our next enhancement that we recently launched, which is also pretty interesting, which is the view-only access to TeamOhana. So again, this is a pretty important enhancement that or more impactful features that we've shipped recently. And it's especially relevant if you're thinking about expanding who has access to TeamOhana. So before this feature, there was no middle ground, right? If someone has access to see a headcount, they can also edit it or submit a change request on that headcount. They can see the history, they can see comments. Now you can give users the visibility without losing that control, and you can expand TeamOhana access to more employees. For example, if you want to give access just to the org chart without the ability to click into a headcount, or just to give access to their own teams without the permission to see comments, you can do so through this view-only access. So how does this work? Is essentially it's a permission setting. It is governed by a permission setting. Right. So let's review how the permissions work, right? So essentially headcount visibility, as you can control this in two steps. So firstly, you can decide the scope of which headcount a user is actually seeing when they log into the system, right? So headcount visibility, TeamOhana has 3 levels of visibility available. This was already existing in the platform today, but just to kind of reiterate that, either you can allow someone to see all headcount within their access controls. So if someone has access to a department, then they can see all headcount pertaining to that department. Secondly, the access can be just to the user's reporting line. So everyone in their hierarchy or within their all the people who roll up into that user, then they will be able to see those headcount pertaining to their reporting line. Or third, they will just be able to see the headcount where they are explicitly assigned. So either they have requested for it, or they are a collaborator, the reporting manager, recruiter, or assigned in any other capacity to that headcount explicitly. So step one is for the admin to decide which level of access or which headcount the user sees. So let's just say I'm selecting all headcount. So I'm, say, giving access to a department leader to see all headcount within that department. And so once I've decided that, the next step is to decide the access level, what they can do within that access scope. So this is the part which is different today in TeamOhana. So within, say, all headcount, now there are 3 levels of permissions that you can decide. You can either allow them to manage headcount, which means they can view and edit, or you can allow them just to view with comments, which means that they can click into the headcount, view the details, but they cannot edit that, or view without comments, which means they can only see that row, the headcount row. They cannot click into the headcount, they cannot see the details, history or comments or any of that, but they can just view the headcount that they're having the permission to do so. And so essentially through both of these permissions, you can choose exactly what they're seeing and how they can interact with that headcount. So I'm just going to take one quick minute to go back into the platform so I can show you how the settings actually works, just a guidance on how that setting can work. So for example, if I'm looking at changing this for a hiring manager, I'm going to scroll down into the headcount visibility section where you can see the all headcount, the 3 levels of visibility, all, reporting line, and assigned. And within each of that, you have 3 different types of permissions that you can set. So if I wanted to set someone's permission, what I would do is first switch everything off in this section. So I kind of have a blank slate to work out of. And then I can decide which level. So if I say I want to give access to the reporting line, then within the reporting line, I can decide do they want with comments or without comments. So let's say I'm enabling with comments. So automatically this permission also gets enabled. The minimum level of access you can give anyone is just to see their own assigned headcount with or without comments. So if I were to toggle between either of that, I can do so here as well. And so that's how you manage view only headcount. Great. Any questions on this particular feature? We really hope that this feature, along with, it puts you in the direction where you can give more people access to it, give more employees access to come in, just view things, just the org chart maybe, or just to get a sense of where the hiring is going for their teams, but maybe not to act on or edit any of the headcount. So we really hope you find this useful. And if there's any questions, of course, feel free to either type it in the chat here or even to reach out to your CSM and learn more about how to use this feature with that. Okay. The next thing that I want to talk about is a feature that I'm particularly excited about, which is the predictive headcount forecasting. This again is brand new. I think it was just launched about a week ago or maybe within a week ago. And so I thought it made a lot of sense to cover that in this webinar today. Essentially, this feature is changing how you think about forecasting in TeamOhana, right? And so what is predictive headcount forecasting, first of all? So currently, if you look into TeamOhana, if you go into it and if you see what the forecast looks like, right, it shows you it reflects what your plan is for the year. It reflects how many headcount you're planning to hire, how many people you already know who are leaving or who have already left. And so the forecast that you're seeing is just your planned forecast, right? So this is showing what the organization is intending, which is pretty useful. But again, it does not reflect the execution reality. So essentially, it is not covering two things. It's not covering the hiring risk, which is that not all the hires that you are planning are going to close on time. And secondly, it does not also include the expected attrition and the subsequent backfills that you need to create against that expected attrition, which is essentially the hidden attrition demand. So this forecast prediction, it addresses both of these things by introducing a probabilistic forecasting prediction. So this prediction is built from your own historical data and it will be sitting alongside your existing plan numbers. So essentially, it is not replacing anything in your plan. Your TeamOhana functionality will be as is, but we're just introducing a few new outputs that will sit alongside your plan numbers for just better, more information to you and better reporting. So before I dive into it, I do want to mention that this is completely permission based. It is completely optional for admins to know to enable or disable this across user roles. And so you can completely control whether or not the organization is using probabilistic forecasting. And we'll cover a little bit more of where that is in the permissions a little bit later. But let me dive into now how this predictive forecasting works, right? So there are 4 key inputs that this predictive headcount forecasting numbers use. So we talked about this a little bit high level in the previous slide, but I'll just talk through that again. So one key input is the predicted attrition. That is how many people are expected to leave during the year. And this is calculated based on your historical trends that we're seeing in the platform, based on past 12 months trends. The backfill rate is another key input, which is what percentage of terminations are expected to actually be backfilled. And again, this is defaulting to 100%, but this is configurable by organization depending upon if not all terminations are going to be backfilled, right? And so this can be configured. Next input is the time to backfill, the average time that it actually takes between when someone leaves and when their backfill starts in the organization. So what does that gap of time look like? This is defaulting to 2 months currently for our calculations, but it is configurable. And lastly, the cumulative hiring gap, which is the expected shortfall, if any, for any planned hires based on recruiter capacity and recruiter performance and recruiting team activity. And this is again based on historical trends that TeamOhana is taking these inputs. So using these 4 inputs, TeamOhana then has 3 predictive numbers which it is calculating and which it can show you in the platform. And they are the 3 mentioned here. So the first one is the predictive forecast. So the predicted forecast is built mainly for finance and FP&A, and it answers the question, where will headcount actually land after the period end and after accounting for attrition and hiring risk? So this is the gap. So there will be a gap between your planned forecast and your predicted forecast, and that is your execution risk, right? That is the number to bring into the budget reserve, into scenario planning conversations. And this is viewable in the headcount page. So in the headcount page, you can toggle between your planned forecast and your predicted forecast so that you can see where both of those end up. The second output is predicted terminations. So this was again based on the inputs that we saw. So essentially built for HR people ops, which answers the question, how many terminations should you expect between now and period end in the organization? This is viewable in the variance tracker and in reports. The third one is predicted hiring targets. So this is built mainly for recruiting teams to answer the question, how many hires or how many roles does recruiting need to expect to plan for based on predicted attrition? So essentially, you might be planning for a certain number of heads that you're going to hire, but that planned number might go up based on expected attrition and the backfills that need to be filled, that need to be created to fill those roles. So these are the three inputs in the platform. And I'm just going to take one quick minute to show you where it actually looks, where it actually is in the platform. But before that, wanted to again mention that this is completely controlled by permission settings. So admins can control which user roles are able to view these predicted forecast numbers. Is this even going to be viewed by anybody? And you can tightly control that. And it is viewed alongside your planned numbers across different pages. And so we'll see how that looks like in the platform right now. And again, while I'm pulling this up, just wanted to again put up a quick poll just to see if this predicted forecast, is that something that you have been looking out for? Is that something that you think solves a real problem? Is this something that you're likely to explore? Just wanted to get some thoughts here because again, it's a brand new feature and we want to see how people are expecting to use this. So again, I am in the settings page where I can scroll down to see under reporting, you can switch on predicted headcount forecast for user roles or switch it off depending upon depending upon the user role. And if this is switched on, now I want to show you where this will show up in different headcount pages. So this is switched on now for me. And so I can see firstly in the headcount page. So in the headcount page, I can toggle here. If I hover over the forecast style, by default, the forecast is going to show me my planned forecast, but I can hover over it and ask it to show the predicted headcount forecast. And if I click on that, I'm seeing the predicted forecast, which TeamOhana is calculating in the backend. And I can toggle between these, and this is going to remember what I selected, and it's going to show me the predicted forecast or the plan, depending upon whichever I have toggled on. So that's the first place you can see this. The second place is in the recruiting dashboard. So this is going to be the planned target hires. So wherever you have this is your actual plan, the number of headcount that you're planning. And you can see the small, thing on top, which tells you what is your predicted target hire. And again, this is not a prediction of what it is expecting, what TeamOhana is expecting that you will achieve, but rather it is an expectation for how much you should be targeting or how much recruiting should be targeting based on the calculations. And this is also visible in the hiring tracker similarly. The next place that you can see this is in the variance tracker, where you can see predicted terms, predicted forecast, and again in the reports as well, predicted terms, predicted forecast alongside your planned forecast numbers as well. So you can choose whether or not you want to enable that for any user role. So the poll results have come in, and I think it's kind of an even split between likely to explore, and also some people are saying that maybe it's not sure yet, or it's not really a priority. So again, feel free to have more conversations about this with me, with Megan, with other people on the team, and see if that's something that you would want to explore for any users or user roles. Okay, I'm going to pause again for questions. We are almost at time, and this was the last one that I wanted to cover today. Any thoughts, any questions that you want to drop, feel free to drop that in the chat. I do want to call out that there are a lot of features that we have released that I was not able to cover today. I did pick kind of the top most impactful ones, but you can follow along by clicking on this updates button here, which will show you just on the sidebar all the things that we're releasing and that we are working on. And if you click on what's new on the top, you can just view our entire change log. And so that's how you can follow along on everything that we're building. You will also be getting our newsletters, which will also talk about all the things that we're releasing, and we will be notifying you on Slack as well. So a lot of touch points where we are talking about this. Um, and Next week, I wanted to just quickly mention that next week we're continuing with this weekly webinar series. Virginia is leading the next one, where she's going to be talking about how HR and talent can get ahead by using TeamOhana, which is going to be a detailed walkthrough of TeamOhana more from an HR and talent perspective on the specific features that you can be using. But we plan to continue with this weekly series, and so every month you should expect something like this, where I will be talking about what we've launched new. And of course, you don't need to wait for these webinars. You can, of course, talk to us anytime about any feature in detail. And keep looking out for our emails about these weekly webinars, which will switch between talking about new features, but also talking about certain existing features and how you can better leverage those. Great. I'm going to pause again to see if there's any thoughts, any comments from anybody. But otherwise, thanks everybody for attending and have a great rest of your day. And thank you for joining us today.